Hello everybody and welcome to DevOps Voices. Today we're joined by Dimitri de Ruiter. Dimitri is a partner at Ideas at Work and is an expert in agile transformations and digital transformations. Dimitri, welcome.
Welcome, Dem. Welcome.
Dimitri is also one of the first DASA DevOps coaches and DASA DevOps coach trainers. And as we speak, he's also hosting a virtual DASA coach training in the Netherlands with 9 learners from all over Europe. And last week, he kicked off the first virtual session of this program. So in this episode of DevOps Voices, we'd like to explore with Dimitri why DevOps coaches are so important to organizations, what makes one a great DevOps coach, and how can you overcome the difficulties and challenges as a coach in today's world where most of the interactions are actually happening online or remote. So I'm also looking forward to hearing how your DASA DevOps coach class is doing. Dimitri, thanks again for joining today's podcast, and tell us a little bit more about yourself and your coaching experience.
Yeah, Dim, thank you. The class that we're running at the moment, we have the second session today. The online class, we have 10 actually. 10 people have joined. Good set of experiences, nicely different, and not only different from the different kind of jobs they have or ages. We have people ranging from 30 to 60, but also different cultures, from Finnish customs to freelancers, to people working for companies like Fujitsu. The main interest that they're having is not the tool thing. Many people think that DevOps is around tools. Yeah, of course. DevOps tools are enablers, but it won't make it successful. The element that we're working on is the mindset change, the cultural change, the way we work together, the things we believe in. And one of the important aspects there is the focus that DASA is having, not on the tools, because a fool with a tool is still a fool, right? But it's really on the behaviors and knowledge and skills. And the cultural element, the cultural elements of values, but also prohibitions, of myths and stories that we share, of the space of ideas, of the space of vulnerability and safety. Maybe back to where we met, that's what, 25 years ago, at a German software company. Still there, it is the stories we share of what we did there, of what that was. Last year, I had my 30 years anniversary, a reunion back with the people that I started with. From all over the world, we still share the stories of what was so special about it, what made everybody cling together. And it's this that, with DASA's focus on skills and knowledge, on the organizational and cultural and the team in the center. And when you look at team is about people.
Right.
To succeed as because that's also part of your question, to succeed as a DASA DevOps coach, as a coach, this is all around change. Still in balance with performance, but it's about change. You cannot make people change. You can help them change, but only if you're truly interested in the other person's change, in their growth, in who they are. And if you're not, then it becomes about you, and that won't make the difference. It needs to be about them, the individual and the teams of teams. And that's what this is about. This is not about, again, tooling or automation or engineering. It's about people.
And can you learn someone to be interested in the other, or are you born like that? I mean, if it's that important, I mean.
Okay, great question. Great question. It is something that, of course, can come with the years. You can be born with it. You can learn something. You can, and yet it needs to become authentic. If it's authentically you, then you can have a much bigger impact.
Yeah.
And this is something, being a coach, in this space, you do need to have the affinity with the space. You cannot only be coaching people. You need to understand what IT is about, but also what modern IT is about. If you do not comprehend that modern IT, in effect, is a manufacturing outfit, a manufacturing and maintenance outfit organization that produces and maintains value streams and have a continuous delivery of value to customers in the form of software. If you do not understand that, if you have not worked in that, if you do not have any knowledge of theories of constraint or anything like that, and you're not interested in people, you won't succeed.
No,
so it's a combination of.
Yeah, I'm also. So I had a conversation last week about. There was a research about what DevOps transformation coaches earn in the US, and for European standards, I think it's quite high. It was between $230,000 and $400,000 on a contract per year. And when I spoke to someone about it, we also made a remark like, it should not be your key driver. And getting back to your point, I think it's all about having a genuine interest in supporting individuals, and that should be, I think, your core driver. Well, it's interesting to make money and a good amount of money, but it's probably the most important thing. That's what I hear from your message as well.
Yeah. Then on that one, money is a short-term satisfier. When you have it, you want more. When you have more, you want even more.
Yeah. How did you start in?
How did you start?
Yeah. How did you start in your coaching role? How did you become an agile coach initially, or a business coach? Tell me about your history. How did you?
I've always been active in sports and training and coaching field hockey teams. In my case, I have 2 boys at home that I help grow. I have friends around me that I work with on a work and not work relationship. And at a certain moment in time, you find that is what makes you tick. Many people also ask me, when was your first time with Agile? I don't know. I think it goes back to a project, thinking about it a bit, a project I did in, I think, 1994 with Apple Europe. And there was no buy-in with the business. The project was not delivering anything really. There was a lot of pressure from the US to do it their way. Management didn't want to, a lot of resistance. And we started to tell them every 2 weeks somewhere in Europe what we did in the past 2 weeks, what we've created and built, and ask them what they thought about it, whether it's useful, and what they are looking for. And that took, I think, half a year to get their buy-in and continuously do this. Invite them to join, invite them for input, and show that we did something with it, to take them seriously. And that brought a rhythm, not build a big blueprint, but oh, you're looking for this, like that. Yes, like that. Okay, cool. Now next, what are you ready for next? Was it called Agile? I wasn't aware, at least. Was it called Scrum? It may have been around, I don't know. But that's what we started doing. And I've started using that with many more of my projects afterwards. And since roughly 2000, I've been working as a freelance interim manager, and I've worked on building teams out of people, whether it was a marketing team or whether it was a sales organization, a pan-European sales organization, or IT guys. And in the last couple of years, it's been all around the view from the perspective of the customer, to deliver value, which for me, as I have a background in supply chain management, is nothing new, right? That way of thinking has been around in manufacturing product work for decades. Lean is not something really new. Supply chain thinking, process thinking, theory of constraints is not something new, but we're now looking at applying it to IT. IT is still a relatively young space business. What, let's say 40, 50 years old, no more, right? And before did something in automotive about 100 years ago. But in terms of speed of change, it's a lot younger.
Right. So, and if you look at the various roles, I mean, and I looked at your resume a bit on LinkedIn, I also see you, I mean, in your career also had many roles, being Scrum Master, I mean, coaching, I mean, you're now training other experts, becoming a DevOps coach. I mean, where do you see the overlap? Can you share your perspective on the demarcation of the various roles?
Well, actually, a true Scrum Master can be very close to what DevOps coaching is about. But then you're a true Scrum Master, as Scrum is basically telling or saying or promoting it to be. However, it's still a development framework. It's an operational component. But when you look at the different stances that a Scrum Master can take, they're very close to that of a DevOps coach, only its space is wider. Agile and DevOps complement each other nicely. Scrum is the most powerful, most adopted framework, because also it's lightweight, and at the same time, it's hard to master. True DevOps, being a cultural thing, is hard to master as well. If you look at the role of the project manager, right, it still has value, but not in this space. When you have a more technical project where the requirements are very clear, constructing a building, an office building, it's specified from the beginning what it's supposed to be, and you can more project manage it. It's more waterfall. Waterfall still has its space. Not in the space of IT. Maybe in building IT service centers, computer centers, but not so much in the space of complex creative work. Complex creative work is the space of people collaborating, and that's where different personalities get together and different capabilities get together, and you need to make them work together. So that's about the people. Again, is it advantageous? Oh yeah, it's advantageous to have seen many sides of what commercial or non-commercial organizations include. If you've not been on the business side,
it's tough.
It becomes tough. I advise everybody to go and work on the business side. If you're really in DevOps, go spend 3 months. If you're really serious about being here, go spend 3 months, or even, let's say 3 months, working in a factory, and figure out how materials flow there. At what points there are inventories, and why inventory is there, decoupling points and processes, and how long.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, and Dimitri, I mean, back to the roles as well. So if you look at Scrum, primarily, let's say dev focus, you think operations is also important. Can you share some examples? I mean, why and how this is that important? I mean, to have that in scope as well, because that's, I mean, what DevOps, what the promise of DevOps is. You know, it's having all the expertise and function throughout the life cycle in one team. So
to create ownership and pride and trust, you need to allow people to deliver beautiful things. Give them space to do that. We then come to the important role of leadership. I was having a conversation, I think last week, with somebody in HR, and I said, listen, modern leadership includes servicing problems, revealing problems, not resolving them, but building problem-solving power in the organization. Because otherwise, you will make yourself, as a leader, the bottleneck that you want to take away. The organization at all its levels, at all its fines, at all its being, need to build creative problem-solving power. And as a leader, you are accountable for just that, for just helping them discover problems, opportunities to grow, opportunities to improve, and help the organization become the problem-solving superstars.
And that's linked to the autonomy. I mean, to the self-steering teams and having responsibility at the lowest possible levels. I mean, how would you be an HR person, Dimi? I mean, how would you measure a leader then? I mean, what are the metrics? I mean, to measure this kind of behavior for you as a leader to say, well, yes, I'm on the right way. I mean, what kind of metrics would you have to measure whether you're on the right track?
Oh man, that's a good question. I need to think about that one a little bit, but it depends on the situation. There is no one way of DevOps. There is no one way of leadership, but it's all about if time to market is an important metric for you. Think about relating key value metrics and how you influence them as a leader to that key value area.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So you look at business metrics, let business objectives and use that as a key metric, which makes makes sense.
If a business innovate, if innovation power is a differentiating within your strategy, then related to that.
Excellent.
And then we get to the question of what performance is. I dare to say that many leaders think of one type of performance only, tactical performance. Stick to the strategy. No, there also is another one which is called diverse. Use the creative power embedded in people to figure out better ways, to figure out new ways. They need not be better and only therefore relevant. They just need to be new. And measure what you're doing there. Yet be aware that once you weaponize that data, weaponize it as in make it relevant to pay, right? You get what you pay for. So once you weaponize the data to get that and reward people for it, it's the end. So there needs to be both in performance, tactical performance as well as adaptive performance. You cannot not only have tactical performance because then it's limited you're limiting the use of the brain power of the people. And actually, people that are executing the process, they know how to bypass it and make it easier, more effective, more efficient, quite better normally than the people who have thought up the process. As a leader, it's both.
Yes.
All sides of the trades.
Right. And I don't want to talk a long time about the pandemic, but I mean, in your role as well as Scrum Master, coach, I mean, supporting various teams, I mean, life must have changed, you know. I mean, can you explain a little bit about, you know, what are the key challenges and working more remotely, less face-to-face time? I mean, what were key obstacles and how did you perhaps solve them or address some of them? Let's start with what are your the key challenges you faced or are still facing in today's world?
In today's world, of course, with all the remote work, all the online work, you're half blind. You don't see all the dynamics. So let's start with listening twice as much as you talk. And when you talk, ask questions to uncover things. That's one. In the life 1.0, the real life where we would sit together for this recording, there in coaching conversations, you could walk with somebody to the coffee machine, have a walk around town. So I've introduced something else, which I call the virtual walk and the talk. What do I do? I take people away for a one-on-one conversation, away from their desk, outside, away from kids that may be at home, away from reminders flying over their screen, and them not being totally with me, or me not being totally with them because you get distracted. Actually, get them away out of their chair and to move. Once you start moving, we put in a headset and we have a phone conversation. No video, just phone. So you really need to listen.
So you don't knock on their doors, both of you exit your own houses and you do your individual walk.
Yeah, I go outside here. I live in close to the forest. I go for a walk. I do some days I do 30,000 steps a day because I have 3 or 4 of those conversations of an hour. And whomever I may be with, maybe in the north, living on the beach side and taking a walk on the beach at the same time. But we're with each other. We're listening to each other and talking. The virtual walk, the talk.
Wow.
So that is still, people love it. I just had somebody saying, Dimi, man, we're only doing this now, somebody joining you. I basically said, man, you give me focus with this. You give me clarity of direction. Actually, I enjoy it because I'm outside when I'm talking to you. And this person lives in Amsterdam. Just goes to walk in Amsterdam downtown.
Yeah. Are there also advantages or of the remote thing, or were you surprised that perhaps some of those interventions might even be more effective? I mean, I want to talk about with you address challenges, but I mean that could also be surprising, positive effects of this new way of working, life 2.0, as you stated.
Had you asked me 3 months ago, I would have said, you know what, actually it works. As good as it did work 3 months before we had to go remote completely. Asking me now, I have to say that continuing with this over a longer period of time will not be successful. The benefits that it has are the lack of personal contact does have its effect on team building, on connectivity between people, misunderstanding each other, particularly for those that have not, because I have that situation with team members that have never met in real life.
Yeah.
Never ever, even though they live close to each other. So I would say the best one would actually be something like a 50-50 split.
Right. Yeah.
50% in the office, 50% not in the office. Rotating day on day one, team one, on day two, team two, etc., something like that, and every week.
Right. Yeah.
It saves office space, a lot of less investment there, right? But then people need to have the situation at home. We need to facilitate that. We need to facilitate home working space. I'm in a luxury situation that I do have it, but many people do not.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, I have somebody who was living in a small apartment in Amsterdam, no kids.
Mm-hmm.
He's now working from Crete in Greece.
Yeah. Yeah.
No change, no difference.
Yeah. No. Interesting. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
The digital nomad.
Well, your statement is, I mean, continuing this way, I mean, it will have an impact. It will not be as successful, and yeah.
Yeah.
Ideally, we have to, if 50-50 split would be an interesting one, yeah, or important one.
It's not dropping in a short period of time. It's gliding slowly.
Yeah.
And this slow glide, we will only notice that it is not good enough anymore once we're there.
Yeah.
So we better now think a bit ahead and say, okay, what can we do today? We can still do a lot, even with social distance.
Final question, Dimitri. It's very interesting, and I'm convinced we can talk for hours and have many more questions to you. But related to this, I mean, if you compare new joinees, fresh folks from universities, and compare them with the, let's say, the more elderly age brackets, I mean, is there a difference there? Could or would the younger folks be able to work better in this more remote, distant thing than the more mature folks who have always been used to life 1.0? Is there a difference?
Great question. Besides remoteness or not, there is a generational gap. So when you establish your team, do consider the differences in generations how people have been brought up, right? How they have been educated, what their backgrounds are, what their belief systems are. And the belief systems of the younger people are just very different of the generation, what is it, 1995, 2000, or a magnitude that now are getting out of universities step by step, right, at the age of 25. They're very different from colleagues in the age of 60. Just different. No better, no, just different. That's the first thing. First, to recognize that there is just a difference in the generational profile. That's one thing. Do I think that the youngsters are better at this? Not convinced. Not convinced. It's still about human interaction. Not through a game console, not through WhatsApp messages, not through social media, but it's still about truly understanding each other, respecting other people's perspectives, learning from them, communicating with them in a face-to-face. So the non-verbal communication actually is a key thing. Will the youngsters be able to handle this? Yes, they will, but not if we stay fully remote.
Right. Yeah.
I'm convinced about that. So if we bring it in this, what I call the 50-50, right? I'm a Libra by birth, right?
Yeah, excellent.
If we're bringing it in as roughly 50-50, in some cases can be a bit different, in other cases this will work better than that, to be seen. But the personal interaction remains a key element of high-performing teams.
Fantastic. Dimitri, thanks, man. And I think we can let go of all the Pareto 80-20. We'll introduce a new Dimitri de Ruiter's 50-50 rule, which can be applied to various different things. Dimitri, thanks again for joining today. It was a pleasure. Good luck with the DASA DevOps Coach program. Keep us posted on that, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, and have a great day, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Dim. My pleasure.